Hey everyone, Monica Bodierski here, artist and author of the Shadowland Tarot and the House of Shadows Lenormand. How are you all doing this week? Thank you so much for giving that paranormal tarot a try. I've had a lot of positive feedback. Very interesting spirits you seem to have spoken to and or heard those stories from. Well, continuing with narrative and perhaps continuing with the dead, let's talk for a moment about commemoration. Have you ever wondered who in your town, your area, your part of the country, your part of the globe, you are commemorating? When you go to cemeteries, it's pretty easy to tell how the city began and by whom, or at least you would think, unless you're only seeing memorials to wealthier members of society and who they were, and those contributions that were thought of to be the most important by a select group of people. Boy, that was pretty diplomatic, I must say. So, I'd like to think about people who aren't perhaps memorialized, people who don't have a plaque or a tree or a giant mausoleum with a family name, because I think that's a huge chunk of folks. Now, I can say here in Toronto that Mount Pleasant Cemetery is one of the largest cemeteries we have, and certainly it is in a downtown area. It began in 1876, but it wasn't the first cemetery. There was one called Potter's Field, which is right at Yonge and Bloor. Not anymore, because the Yorkville shopping area is currently located there. So I believe that cemetery began in 1825, and within about 30 years, due to cholera, diphtheria, and all sorts of other wonderful things, general mortality rate, there were about 6,700 people buried in Potter's Field. And it was non-denominational. That was the important part of that. That and the fact that people were given 25 years to disinter, move their loved ones to Mount Pleasant. And then there would be a development project. Well, I was reading up on a few numbers there, and it turns out that estimates, this could be wrong, but this is what I've read, the estimates of the number of people moved were 600 to 1,000. And if you recall, I just said the estimates were there were 6,700 people, and a local curator, when asked about that, said, "You're bound to miss a few." You're bound to miss a few. Well, who are those people? We don't know. Here's another thought. We are on sovereign indigenous lands, and that is easily over 10,000 years of people walking, living, breathing, being born and dying on this land, and not always burying formally, as we would call it in colonized terms, by having plaques or headstones. People are part of the land. They're buried where they fall sometimes. That's life. So what about all of those people? What about people who were of a different socioeconomic status? Perhaps they weren't majority. People of color, Jewish people, Buddhists, Sikhs. Name any religion that isn't Catholic or Anglican, because apparently those are the only two groups that were allowed in Mount Pleasant Cemetery. My goodness, what about women who died in childbirth and, we don't know who they are, or they just had a small headstone, or, were buried on the farms that they passed away in. There are so many people who just pass in anonymity. Why is that concerning? Well, because the way we tell and retell those stories says a lot about who we value in society. And I think that we should value everyone equally. And we don't. We can see that when we walk around and look at the wings of hospitals. What we're valuing perhaps are the people who contribute the most money. people who can afford to be remembered. So I'm going to say spiritually, how do we commemorate some of those folks? Well, there's so many ways in poetry and song and paintings. You can do it academically. What I would suggest, though, with tarot, yes, we're coming back to tarot, is to try this 2-card memorial look at someone in your family, in your neighborhood, where you live, who needs to be remembered. So maybe they're an ancestor, maybe they're not. But reach out to somebody and use the cards. We're going to pull a couple cards here, and I'm going to see someone here who needs to be remembered, because everyone should be remembered, even if we don't know their names or their contributions. We can change that from now on, and I hope we are moving in that direction. But until then, let's take a look at the cards and see if they will talk to us. So, who should I be commemorating? Well, the 2 cards I received are Discretion and the Queen of Cups. Discretion and the Queen of Cups. Now, those of you who know my deck know that Discretion is actually the Judgment card, okay? And the Queen of Cups, well, that's a very artistic looking person. Not only artistic, very intuitive, very creative, judging by the guitar. So, apparently this is a woman, and we don't know her name. I wasn't reaching out to a particular ancestor, and even if I was, well, we only go back a few generations in our memories. Many people only go back 200 years, not 300 years maybe. Not too many people I know have managed to get back further than the 1600s even. So, if it is a family member, it is. But for now, we're just going to say this person needs acknowledging. Discretion. The Judgment card. You know, I'm going to say it was somebody who used their judgment a lot. Somebody, maybe they were judged, maybe they were a judge. Let's see what the other card was. The Queen of Cups. You know, this is about creativity, and with the guitar and that nice cup of coffee, I'm going to say this was probably somebody who was judged because of their profession and their creative voice, and female identified. So, I'm going to leave an offering for this person. For the artists, the unknown creative people, the people who were wise, people who used their discretion. Perhaps they were judged, but you know, they were spiritual. That's what those little antlers on this owl are about, connecting to higher self and higher spirit. So I'm going to leave an offering, and that offering can take the form of leaving food, for me leaving coins in places, leaving an herbal offering, saying words. You can say those words are an offering, pouring a libation or water or coffee on the ground for people and saying, this is for you, I see you, I hear you, even if you didn't get that plaque or that giant marble statue in a very elite cemetery, you were here and you contributed, and I thank you. Okay, give this a try. Let me know who you are honoring or remembering, so that those people can be at peace. We put out that energy, and I think it makes a difference. Okay, have a wonderful week. Remember to leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter, visit the website, check out the classes that are upcoming. I do have a bone and curio casting class, part 1 and 2, coming up in a couple of weeks, so check it out. Remember to subscribe and like. Stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.